Indianapolis, St. Paul, The Fan.
Shall we begin?
Oh, well.
Football Feast.
I'm a kid, so I call it KFAN.
Hold on to your butts.
Oh my God! No way! All I can say is, wow. Yo, what's going on? Welcome to Indianapolis, Indiana, and the National Football League Combine. It is a yearly occurrence for 9 to noon. And yours truly is Paul Allen. This year joined by Gabe Henderson, the Vikings Entertainment Network and Vikings.com, and the analyst for the vast and ever-expanding Minnesota Vikings Radio Network. Pete Bercich is making his Combine debut, at least from a broadcasting standpoint. A cavalcade of fantastic guests, per usual, as we roll at the Combine, are coming up. We'll set that up in a little bit. But radio at the Combine compared to linebackers coach Pete Bercich or aspiring Notre Dame linebacker Pete Bercich trying to sneak into the NFL. Welcome to Indianapolis. What do you think?
It's good. It's great to be back. I mean, you think about 30 years ago, I showed up here as a college senior graduate wanting to make a team and doing all the tests and going through all the medical and back, totally different stadium, the whole thing. And then I remember being back here as around, 14 years ago, looking for a job.
Wow.
Right? Because you come here as a coach, and everywhere you go, whether it's Senior Bowl or Combine or whatever, when you're coaching, you always see that group of guys walking around that are looking for work, and you can tell who they are because they're not watching what's going on. They're talking to everybody.
Yeah.
That's how you have to get it, And you just sit there for a minute and go, thank God I have a contract. Thank God I'm good.
Oh, geez.
But everyone's like, someday that'll be you. And then in 2006, that was me.
Yeah.
I remember it was 2000, the year, 2001, sitting with Tom Alvadati, sitting in the stands with Ron Rivera.
Yeah.
I just met Ron, and Ron was just getting started in coaching, and he and I just sat there and talked, and this is a good place to build relationships, and a lot goes on at night. We all know that. Guys go out for dinner and everything, but that's where a lot of the work gets done and the relationship starts. So this place, there's so much going on above and beyond just these young guys trying to get drafted and make themselves some money and make themselves a career.
And Gabe, with the Vikings Entertainment Network, Vikings.com, and stuff you and Tatum Everett will be doing, what can people look forward to, and what do you look to accomplish when you come to the Combine? And good morning.
Good morning. This feels like road game number 10. I'm in between Paul Allen, Pete Bercich. Pete's over here looking at the
Somebody
play.
just ran for 16 and you pointed at an 11.
Gabe.
Playing with you.
That's how.
He went through a patch this season. I don't know. He has a new child. I mean, just whatever's on his mind. Where it's when he was missing in road games. Gabe will help with the spotting and the stats.
Yeah.
And he'll point to the number right after a run or a pass or whatever. And he went through this little patch where he was missing things by 5. So it was like, and Ty Chandler's out of bounds after a 16-yard run.
Yep. 21 yard.
Actually, it was 21.
Sorry, PA.
Well, that's okay. I mean, it's all part of the process, but it's human nature gets to win occasionally too. You know what I mean?
There are people who are professionals. Gabe is dresses like one, acts like one, but he never has a pen.
Right.
He's always that's kind of a
true.
bit. He's always borrowing pens, and he's always missing by 5.
That's true.
Looking for chargers for his 4th phone.
Yeah. How about him?
Hey, how come my computer died in the middle of this road game at Lambeau Field? Oh wait, Gabe had to charge his fourth phone.
He's got this charger that's the size of a suitcase.
It clipped on the whole table.
Well, so I got to plug my phone in, and I look down, and all 6 outlets are covered by that one charger.
That's the best.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's so on brand. You don't have your energy drink, but you got your coffee.
Yeah.
PA's already spilled this coffee this morning.
Okay. I mean, let's be honest. Okay, I have a brand new plum-colored Lululemon sweatshirt.
Yeah.
All right. I actually bought it, and so I'm excited to wear that day one of the combine. I got my plum Lululemon.
Yep.
And then Gabe, in trying to, I think, charge phone number 3, he knocked the coffee over, and it spilled on the brand new sweatshirt.
I was wondering what that was. That looks awful.
Kevin O'Connell, coach of the Minnesota Vikings, joins us today at 11 o'clock Central, but our first guest joins us now. And if we were at the NFL Combine, we always love to start with one of the very best at what he does in the history of the NFL. He's Adam Schefter with ESPN. Adam, it's Paul Allen, and let me guess, as basketball and your fantasy basketball team goes, you're in first place, I would imagine. You have Luka, Giannis, probably traded for Wemby, picked up Cam Thomas when somebody erroneously dropped him, and life's good, right?
Well, that would be the case in other years, Paul. I appreciate you asking, and I appreciate you having that much faith in my basketball GM fantasy prowess, but unfortunately, it's a semi-down year. I've won 3 championships the last 4 years. I'm not going to win another championship this year, unfortunately.
Oh, no. Does that mean you're a non-playoff team right now?
I am on the outside looking in. I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. I picked the player, so it comes back to the GM, but Mikal Bridges has not performed. My first-round pick was Anthony Edwards.
Right.
He's been very good. I can't complain about him. Mikal Bridges, not great. I used a high pick on Walker Kessler.
Ooh.
Disappointing.
Oh.
Disappointing.
So the 2025 fantasy basketball combine is going to be very, very important to you, right? You'll be at that for several days scouting, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to bounce back, and we're going to use this and learn from this and grow from this and make such that 2025 is not going to be the same as 24.
Adam, when you get to the combine tomorrow, and by the way, good luck with the dentist appointment today. Hopefully, it's nothing of the root canal variety.
Thank you.
But when you get to the combine and you do Adam Schefter things, how much does mingling at the combine help you break news and/or solidify relationships?
Well, it's both, right? I mean, I've been going to the combine now since the early 1990s. So we're talking about 30 years, roughly. And to me, I know it's all about the medicals and the players and the quarterbacks, and Caleb Williams and Drake May and Jaden Daniels and J.J. McCarthy and all that. But to me, it's the prelude to the start of the new league year and everything that happens in the NFL. Once we get to the beginning of March, it's free agency, it's the trades, it's the deals, it's the quarterback, it's all that. And so that's why I go there. With all due respect, I'll get around to all these prospects and how they're performing and how the combine impacts them. But that's not my purpose while I'm there in Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm. What is the purpose?
Exactly what you said.
Right.
Seeing people that you haven't seen in a while, coming face to face, mingling, talking, gossiping, speculating.
Yeah.
Hearing things, wondering things, so there's all sorts of questions about that.
Right. I can hear members of the Green Bay Packers secondary infiltrating your abode, Adam, in the background. That's crazy.
Well, let's just hope he's not trying to get through an airport right now.
Yeah,
dogs barking.
And that's the voice of Pete Bercich, analyst for the Vikings Radio Network. Gabe Henderson with Vikings.com is also here. It's Adam Schefter, boys. Pete, what do you got?
Adam, I think for this combine, it's kind of the year of the quarterback. It's a COVID thing / young quarterbacks coming out, and can there be 6 quarterbacks drafted in the first round this year? I know it's too early to know for sure, but is that a possibility? Because that's really going to change how the rest of these teams see the board, especially if you're already set in that position. You can make it the pick of the litter at 11, 12, 13 of certain position groups.
Well, Pete, I would say this. We know the 3. I would think that Bo Nix and J.J. McCarthy, listen, I have college buddies in Michigan, and they're telling me, J.J., mid-round pick. I'm like, mid-round pick? Are you out of your minds?
Yeah.
And we made a bet about 2 months ago, dinner for all my college friends. I said, J.J. McCarthy will be a 1. Like, I can't even believe we're having this conversation. I also have a situation where basically they thought that Jim Harbaugh wouldn't go to the NFL, and so Paul, hold on 1 second. I got something going on. Hold on 1 second, okay? Hold on. My wife needs my attention. Hold on 1 second.
They're going through his bag.
The drive-thru was right here.
Right, but when he says he has somebody on the other line, I mean, that could be like a general manager, or maybe there's cousins.
I'm sorry about that. Okay.
That's okay.
So,
anyway, there we go.
So it's a situation where basically the 3, JJ is 4. To me, I think he's a 1. I think Bo Nix is probably a 1, right?
Yeah, that's
5. So are you saying that Michael Penix is the 6th?
Yeah, I mean, somewhere in there. I mean, in with the day and age in the league and how much has changed, the opportunity even to get a quarterback, teams are, I just think, are more willing to stretch for that possibility, right? Even if it's a guy that may have to sit on the shelf for a year. I think the quarterback position is just that important nowadays, and there are a plethora. I mean, it's just more than we normally see, right? And that's, I think, what can define this draft.
I mean, again, quarterbacks are always the most important position. I don't know that I see 6, but we're 2 months out. Do I see 3? Definitely. 4, probably. 5, likely. 6? Let's wait and see, I think.
I mean, since we're on that topic of quarterback, are there any guys that you see in that top 5 or 6 that fit this Vikings team, if that's the route the Vikings decide to go early on in the draft this year?
Well, that becomes an issue. Like, that's what these 2 months are really about. And I got to be honest, like, I'm not there yet to know. And also, you have to see what happens with Kirk and free agency and everything like that, right? Like, do they get the Kirk Cousins deal done? Do they not? Because if they do, then clearly they're not going quarterback. If they don't, then that definitely could be an option. I mean, you guys are around the team. What would be your guess today? Your guess today, going in, about how they address the quarterback position?
Picking us for information on the radio. You say. Normally that's a text. Pete. Well, what are your thoughts?
Well, my thought is this: this is a unique situation where the Vikings you have 11th overall. One of these guys will still probably be on the board, even if you sign Kirk Cousins. Mm-hmm. You still need a future. 36 Achilles. He might have a year or 2 under his belt. It may be an opportunity that at 11 you could pick a backup who normally would go in the top 5 or 10 in any other normal draft year. If that talent is there and available, why not? Why not? Why not?
Listen.
If free agency works the way you want it and you start filling some gaps in free agency, that gives you even more flexibility to say, hey, we might have our future quarterback here too.
Hey, listen, if you can hit on a quarterback early on, if you could tell me that they could pick a quarterback at 11, whoever that is, J.J. McCarthy, and know that guy is going to hit in the future and be your guy, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. But the flip side to that would be, well, if you're getting a deal done with Kirk, you're paying Kirk what it's going to take to keep Kirk, and you have the chance to add a starting cornerback or a pass rusher, and you're paying Kirk to win now. Like,
right. Yeah.
You're not paying Kirk to the future.
Well,
so if you're paying him to win now, and you get a chance to land a bona fide starter at 11. Is that what you want to do?
Okay, again, well, but Adam, if you had to bet real money and say sizable cash, whether Kirk would be with the Vikings or not, so like, you get Vikings or anybody else, which way would you bet?
To me, right now, it's a coin flip. I could see either way. Like, again, I turn it around and ask you guys. I wish you were sitting. And this is why you go to Indy, to have these conversations, right? Talk. My guess is that they'd like to have him back. I do think they'd like him back. I do think they'd like him back at a certain number. And the question is there a team out there that's willing to give him more? Now,
Right.
he and his agent, that's their job to go through. Okay, well, what is a team like Atlanta or New England or New Orleans or Washington or whatever team it is? What are they willing to pay? You're willing to get to a certain number? Oh, okay, well, Minnesota's here. Okay, we get more. And so I think he'll have a pretty good idea in the next week how realistic it is for him to stay.
Yeah.
My guess today, going in, he could go either way. That's my guess. I don't have an answer for you. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine. No, it's early in the process. And last one, you're a Michigan alum, man. And I'm looking at, an Adam Schefter tweet here. Michigan is sending 18 players to the Combine this year. Highest number of players that any school has had at the Combine since at least 03 at Adam Schefter.
Even more. It turned out it's the most ever that the school's ever sent.
Wow.
I got confirmation later in the day.
Yeah.
No school's ever sent 18 players to the Combine the way Michigan is this year.
Well, I'm not an elite college football mind, but doing the insiding that I do, or talking to the people to whom I chat, I happen to be quite fond of J.J. McCarthy. Not only potentially at 11 for the Minnesota Vikings, I happen to think the Broncos right behind the Vikings may be quite infatuated with him. And you watch all the games, man, like. With JJ out of that pro-style offense with that nice arm and kind of untapped talent in, say, a system like the Vikings run, and then O'Connell's McVay/Shanahan type system with the right components has proven to be very good. Would you like McCarthy here?
Well, first of all, when you listen to Jim Harbaugh, and he's serious when he says he would take J.J. McCarthy number one.
Wow.
Right? He's not making that up, okay? That's how he feels. I have watched him pretty closely, and I've always thought he was going to be a one. And I've gotten to meet him and talk to him a little bit and spend some time with him. And I'll say this: he's an impressive kid. Like, I like that guy. He's a guy I'd want around my team. Now, how that's going to fit with your offense and work, that's for those guys to decide. I think Kevin's smart enough and adept enough to make it work with whoever it is. A good quarterback's a good quarterback. So whichever one of those guys they identify as somebody that could help them, I think he can make it happen. And, yes, I think J.J. McCarthy definitely could be one of those guys.
My brother? Go ahead.
He's a winner, unlike my fantasy basketball team this year.
Hey, safe travels to the Combine. Best of luck with the dentist appointment today and those dogs in the background. I appreciate you very much, man, and maybe I'll see you tomorrow, okay?
I would hope so. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. Have a great day, and enjoy Indianapolis.
Yep. See you, brother. Adam Schefter, ESPN, and Combine 2024 in the air with Gabe Henderson and Pete Bercich. It's Paul Allen. Nordo produces at the 651 Carpets Plus studios. And that jumpstarts the Timber Tech What's on Deck set list, which around the corner includes one of the very best at analyzing the NFL draft, Jordan Reid from ESPN. And Kevin O'Connell will join us at 11 o'clock Central for an elongated sit-down with the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. The 2 days that we are here, expect the likes of National Football League Coach of the Year, Kevin Stefanski. That'll take place sometime. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, general manager for the Vikings. He'll be on the radio show tomorrow. Likewise for his right-hand man, Ryan Grigson. And much, much more as we broadcast from Indianapolis and the Convention Center. It is Combine Coverage 2024 on your home for Minnesota Vikings football, FM 100.3, KFAN. Jay Reid on the NFL Draft. Next, and good morning.
The Fan.
Jordan Reid, you just love this time of the year, don't you?
Oh, I love it. It's like Christmas for me, Pete.
Right.
Christmas comes twice a year. This is my second Christmas, and so I'm excited.
This is Jordan Reid with ESPN. He's a draft analyst. We've known Jordan for quite some time. I've told this story before. I won't tell the entire story, but Jordan and I had kind of texted with each other, met each other somehow, and then it's Thanksgiving. I think the Thanksgiving, Aretha Franklin sang the Star-Spangled Banner for 7 minutes, and I'm down on the field at Ford Field, and I hear somebody yelling PA, and I look up behind the goalpost, and there in like the 15th row is Jordan Reid. And that's how we met. And from, ancillary jobs, the Draft Network, stuff like that, worked his way up to become an analyst for ESPN and a draft analyst. And you can follow him on Twitter, as 9 to Noon does, at Jordan_Reid. It's REID, at Jordan_Reid.
Did he have his Honolulu blue on, though, in the stands?
I'm a big Viking. I grew up a Vikings fan. Big time.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm a big Randy Moss guy.
He had a game-worn Moss.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was a game-worn Moss. And Pete played with Moss.
I don't know if you remember
the
backup. If you were a fan of the backup linebackers from back in the late 90s.
Oh, absolutely. I think I had a jersey, if I'm not mistaken.
And this is a compliment, what I'm about to say. You're on TV a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
I see you all the time, man, and you're doing a great job. Have you learned over the course of what has it been, 3 years now, 2 or 3?
Yeah, it's been 3.
Right. Is there a comfortability that you eventually find as you move on? Because obviously we're all improving, hopefully day by day or show by show or whatever. But from when you started to where you are now, you've really done a good job. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's really interesting just because I didn't have any TV experience when I first started with ESPN. And like I told the executives and the producers that I worked with my first year, the only on-camera experience that I had was pre- and post-game press conferences when I was playing in North Carolina Central. So there's so many intricacies and details that you have to go through, understanding how to present information, because I'm a football junkie. I can't go on talking about certain terminology and saying, oh, this quarterback knows how to attack cover 2, and the audience is like, I have no idea what cover 2 is. So just understanding how to break everything down and present it to the audience that I'm presenting to.
I know we're talking about your uprising from Central to ESPN, but we go way back to like high school. Jordan Reid and I, whenever I would pick up the News and Observer in high school, this guy's name was in this. We were like 1 and 2. You used to leading quarterback.
You did his laundry, right? You used to wash his uniform and all that. Or no?
Gabe was way better than me. Gabe was way better.
It was one of those things. We were way back in the day, but seeing you grow from there until where you are right now, when did it start to click for you that hey, this is something that is a career, and this is something that's helping people back home in North Carolina kind of dream and inspire to be the voice for the people?
That's a great question. So for those that don't know, I played quarterback at North Carolina Central from 2010 to 2013. I went right into coaching after that. So I coached at Central up until 2018. Then I had 2 daughters at the time, and we all know college coaching can be a bit brutal. I wanted to be the family man at home. I wanted to be there for my wife and my daughters. So I really got into the journalism side of things, and it's something that I've always been interested in. Like, I loved the draft growing up. I was that kid that sat in front of the TV back when the draft was 2 days long. It was super long, and I sat in front of the TV just trying to figure out players' backgrounds, writing about my own rankings and things like that. So journalism and football, I wanted to figure out a way to combine it, and I never could do it just because I was so focused on my playing career and my coaching career. But once I got out of coaching, I said, hey, let's just take a shot. Let's make a career out of it. I started my own blog. I started posting YouTube clips on Twitter, and I started a social media account back then too, just posting clips and doing voiceovers of why this quarterback had this progression or this read and why it was successful. Why did he throw this interception and things like that? So that really helped me. And surprisingly, ESPN came out of nowhere. It's just you have to be ready for your opportunity. That's what I would say for everybody.
Proud of you. Being a former quarterback, and this is kind of the year of the quarterback as we get into this draft. What do you think of? There's really 6 guys that are kind of in the mix, maybe to go in the first round or somewhere in the very quickly. What about those guys off the top of your head? Do you like, not like? What's your instant reaction to the group that we're looking at this year?
It's a really interesting group, Pete, and you'll hear about 3 guys at the top, and that's Caleb Williams of USC, Drake May of North Carolina, and then also Jaden Daniels of LSU. And I think each one presents their own different strengths. Caleb is more so of the off-script improvisation, very smart, really good arm, very good accuracy, but the thing that I say is going to make Caleb successful, he has to go to a coach that lets him be him. You have to embrace the chaos a little bit with him, but also you have to understand how to straddle the line of letting him be him, but you have to rein him in a little bit too, just because at USC, the defense gave up 35 points a game. So that Superman cape, it was always out of the closet.
You can tell he's a quarterback all the time. Blaming the defense. Blaming the defense.
I just got to pause for a second, all right? Because I've done interviews with Jordan Reid for many, many years before anybody knew who Jordan_Reid was, and not on TV all the time at ESPN. That answer right there 3 years ago would have been 35 seconds. And now, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the way you're expounding and expanding on things, man. It's like Gabe said. It's just awesome, man. We're so happy to see what's happening.
Everybody, you get better with reps, right?
That's it.
You get better with reps.
It's like your playing career, right?
Yeah,
man. And just saying you play at Central, we'll save the stories for off camera, but still, Jay Reid, just understanding that you grew up a Vikings fan.
Yeah.
You've known this organization inside out. When you look at just the quarterback market, you want to say, okay, the Vikings probably will consider that, but your updated mock draft on ESPN has the Vikings going defense. Jordan Newton, why?
Yeah, man, I love that guy. Holy cow.
So that was back in January.
Okay.
That was a little bit of a while ago. So having more intel now, and then just understanding about these quarterbacks. I would not be surprised if Minnesota does go quarterback at 11. I definitely think that is an option.
Well, you got steam, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. But also, this defensive line has to get better too.
You didn't have steam 3 years ago. Now you got steam. Anyway, I'm sorry. I got to stop looking at the surrogate here because I'm just so proud. It's unbelievable.
Because my question was going because I love the big guys up front, and I think if you look at Brian Flores and his defense, if I was a big man, an interior defensive tackle, Minnesota's where I'd want to be.
Yeah.
Because you don't get double teamed.
Yeah.
You're not playing a traditional two gap bit where my job's to hold off two linemen until the linebacker can flow. You got 9 guys on 8 guys. You get singled all the time. And so my other question, but because you're a quarterback, I went the quarterback route, was tell me a couple big guys in the interior. And obviously when you said Jordan Newton, I'm like, okay, there you go. There's your favorite.
Yeah.
If you have him going that high.
I wish we would see him at the Combine. He just had surgery for a Jones fracture in January, so he's not going to be able to participate, unfortunately. But he's kind of in the mode of Grady Jarrett and Geno Atkins. Those are the two players that he really reminds me of. He does have short arms. He kind of has that condensed and that squeezed together body a little bit, but he's playing everything from 0 all the way out to wide 9. And the game that I go back to is Wisconsin. If there's one game I would recommend you to watch him, the Wisconsin game is just littered with his film and how good he can be. And the thing that I love about Jordan Newton is that Illinois had so many guys get drafted last year, whether it was Devin Witherspoon, Quan Martin, Sidney Brown. So he was the focal point of that defense coming into the year, and he upped his game. Over 700 snaps last year, which was 8th in the FBS last year. So he doesn't come off the field. He's playing 0, he's playing 1, he's playing 3. I think he's a 3 technique, but he can play some 1. Now, he's not the guy you want holding against double teams just because he's not stout. It'll be interesting to see what he does end up weighing. I think he's going to come in probably around 300 to 305 pounds. But if you're asking him strictly to be a 3 technique, penetrate and get up the field right now, and you can also move him around, I think he would be a great fit. Maybe not at 11, but if Minnesota does want to trade back, maybe into like the early 20s, I think that would be a comfortable range for him.
Now Pete and Gabe too, probably. I know you've put a fair amount of film watching time into defensive linemen, and really to prioritize. Kevin O'Connell's going to be here noon Eastern, 11 Central, and we'll start chatting about things like that with him. So I'm not really going to prioritize things until or we know exactly what's next with Kirk Cousins. I mean, that just kind of starts and stops so many different conversations, but getting pass rush from defensive ends in a 3-4 or a nose like Jordan Newton or somebody else who can give you legitimate thrust from a pass rush standpoint. I know you've gone deep down the road on that. Are there some others that you like that you want to present to Jordan?
Interior, I mean, the guys that I've looked at, I'm intrigued by Braden Fisk, the kid from Florida State, because you watch him and also Jared Verse.
Yeah.
Either one of those two would be an absolute, I think, because the two of them play so hard. They get off the football, I know. But Fisk especially is an interior guy. And then the other guy that intrigues me is Darius Robinson from Missouri, because he's just so damn big. Yeah. But he can move. You make him an interior outside linebacker on base down. Can he run well enough, let's say, to chase down guys on the edge? And because Verse can. But can you move him interior and let him rush over the center on third down? I mean, there's a lot of those options, I think, out there. But those are some of the guys. Dorless I like from, you see these little flashes, and I'm always looking for the guys that can rush the passer.
Yeah.
Or especially from the interior, because let's face it, with our group that we have, we made it through the season with 3. We would go into games with 3 interior linemen dressed. That's it. And again, I keep telling you, if you're a free agent interior and you don't want to take on double teams anymore, man, come to Minnesota.
Yeah.
Which is to that point of when you look at Brian Flores' defense, do you really need that elite edge rusher when you got a guy that calls blitzes 50% of games? So that would be my question for you when you look at just the pass rush.
You need someone that can win one-on-one.
Got you. Yeah.
Because that's, we five-man run. I'm saying if you got a guy that can win one-on-one, no matter where he is on that line.
That's what the Super Bowl came down to.
Right. And that's, you want Danielle Hunter. Yeah, would you like to have a Danielle Hunter back? Yes. But you get two or three guys. I don't know. There's so many directions to go, and I think the way we play defense is unique in the NFL.
Yep.
Right? It's very, very unique. And we have to take advantage of that. So I think we can get more mileage out of. We're getting more mileage out of guys now than I ever thought we would.
Yep.
Right. You talk about all the guys up front. And
I think it's the scheme too that kind of.
That's what I'm saying. Is that I'm like looking at you talk about Drazon Newton, and there's a lot of these guys I think that could come in and do a lot of good.
Now, last year when we had you 9 to noon at the Combine, you said something that I never forgot. And you were talking because KJ Osborne's a free agent, might not be back on the team. So the Vikings, having drafted Jordan Addison and got some good run out of Brandon Powell in free agency, they offensively speaking, that still is the identity of the team. And last year, I asked you about a sleeper wide receiver, man, and you brought up somebody I'd never heard of, Dontavian Wicks, who ended up going to Green Bay and playing with Green Bay and had a wonderful, wonderful season. Any sleeper wide receivers, deeper draft, like Saturday-type wide receivers that you like this year in Dontavian Wicks-like fashion?
Yeah, there's quite a bit. My personal favorite is Malik Washington of Virginia. So he actually was at Northwestern his first 4 years. Transfers to Virginia last year, over 1,000 yards, led the country in broken tackles. He's about 5'9", about 200 pounds. So he kind of has the frame of Brandon Powell. He looks exactly like Brandon Powell. That's why I think he would be a really good fit for him. You can put him on jet sweeps. You can use him on reverses. You can run him in the slot down the field. There's so many different ways that you can use him. And I think he's just hitting his stride just because Northwestern, they had up and down quarterback play, so he really weren't able to see what he was capable of. But last year at Virginia, they really pushed the ball to him.
Yeah.
And he was at the Shrine Bowl. And he was one of the best players there, without question. He just moves different, and I think the Vikings are going to have a lot of interest in him.
So do you absolutely, with the right to change the opinion, because we'll tap on you a couple of times at least if you have time up to the draft. Jordan Reid, ESPN, with us at the NFL Combine. Do you feel absolutely Williams, May, Daniels, or Williams, like those three are going to go 1, 2, 3? You feel good about that?
I keep saying this, PA. I'm not sold on New England going quarterback at 3, just because that roster is so bad offensively. Now, defense, they have some pieces, of course, but offensively, I just think they're so far away. So I think the decision that they're going to have to make in their draft room is, do we take the quarterback and just trust the $80 million that we have in cap space to build around it? Or do we trade back, get a haul of picks, and just build this thing from the ground up offensively? Just because both offensive tackles are free agents. Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi, they're clearly not the answer there, and they have some other free agents in spots too. And we all know they don't have anybody to push the ball to in New England. So 3, I keep saying that. I'm just not convinced that they are going to go quarterback. That could be a trade back spot.
So if you're the Vikings or the Broncos or outside chance the Jets, and you're trying to get like say somebody loves Drake May.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, then the possibility, it's going to cost a lot, but to get up there, you're saying that there could be a possibility because, like, as of the last couple of weeks, it just seemed like the top 3, because of the caliber of these quarterbacks, are like, nah, you can call if you got 5 first-round picks, but don't call if you don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And, the framework of the trade, let's say if Minnesota does end up deciding to go up, they're obviously going to have to give up 2 first-round picks. I think that's the starting price. But if you're Minnesota, when is it time to get your quarterback of the future? Assuming they move on from Kirk Cousins, I just think it potentially could be time for them to find that quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at just the quarterbacks, is there, being a former quarterback, is there a guy in this draft that fits the Vikings mold of, play action passing by spreading it out? I believe the Vikings led the NFL in passes thrown outside of the hash marks. Yeah. So is there a quarterback that kind of fits that mold for what Kevin O'Connell wants?
Well, for outside the hashes, Michael Penix will be your guy. I have a day 2 grade on Penix just because of the medicals, and we'll see what does what end up happening with that. So if they want to go quarterback in the second round, Penix is more so of your guys that attack the outside of the hashes, of course the down the field shots. But the thing with Penix that's going to be really interesting is that once he moves off of his spots, that's always going to be the big hang-up about him. So let's say they go Jared Verse, Dallas Turner, or Leatu Latu at 11. If they're looking for a quarterback that fits them in the second round, I think Penix definitely could be a fit.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Kevin O'Connell has said it, but he said it in one of his opening press conferences was accuracy. Accuracy is what's most important to him. So of this group of these quarterbacks, who's the most accurate?
The most accurate is J.J. McCarthy.
Really?
I think he's the one that fits O'Connell's system the best out of all of the quarterbacks
I agree.
in this draft. And I keep saying this.
I love it.
If they do end up bringing Kirk back, I think having that runway to J.J. McCarthy, I think that could be an option for them just because J.J.'s not ready right away. His sample size is very limited. He has 28 career starts. Now, yes, I know he's 27-1, but in those 28 games, he's only had 25 or more passing attempts in 12 out of those 28. So he's very raw as a passer, but when he does flash those traits, you definitely see the intrigue.
Yeah, I've read a stat that he only had 1 touchdown pass in the month of November.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to each his own, though.
But see, what I hear about JJ is, and I've said it now, this will be the third time, comes out of a pro-style offense, which NFL coaches absolutely love, and is untapped talent because of that running game. So with the arm strength, and I was told the accuracy needs to improve.
It does.
But with the arm strength, the mind, and the knowledge of running a Jim Harbaugh NFL-type offense, that coaches are like, all right, well, with the accuracy and these little technique-related things, that's what we do. I mean, we can fix those lickety-split. So then you fix that, and then you have the other stuff, man. So somebody's going to get a really good quarterback in this guy.
We are a quarterback. The Vikings are a quarterback-heavy team in a quarterback-poor league. We depend on our quarterback more. I mean, look, we don't depend on our running game.
Right.
We depend on our quarterback to be able to get up there and put our offense in a good position. So the mental part of that is so important. Now, whether or not McCarthy can do that or handle that, that's why I don't think the make it up as you go type quarterback is going to be what Kevin O'Connell is going to want. He's going to want a guy that can execute. And another thing that O'Connell has said is about being able to see voids and feel voids.
Yep.
Know that we've got a blitz coming from this way. Which guy is it? McCarthy again in that respect that can do that can find those voids and be able to make those decisions before the ball is even snapped.
Yeah.
Because you watch Cousins, the most amazing part about Cousins on film is how he can throw people open.
Absolutely.
Where we've frozen tape where he's starting to throw, and you can see the deep mid, the touchdown that he threw against Kansas City to Addison. You could see the safety setting up and looking to the tight end because he's thinking that it's going to go to the tight end, and Cousins is already throwing that ball deep down the middle. Yeah. And you need someone that can anticipate and do those things. That's what KOC's looking for. And again, of these guys, which ones match that?
So I think Drake May will be the one that
system-esque.
Yep, system-esque. He's the prototypical size, 6'4", 230. He anticipates. He's been in multiple systems now, predominantly the air raid. Air raid isn't really about a whole bunch of anticipation just because it's a lot of space reads, guys on the run, and deep shots down the field. But you see some of those anticipatory throws that he's throwing over the middle. You see those deep digs. You see the shallow crosser complements, the dagger concept that I call with the run-through seam guy and then with the dig behind it. So he's throwing a lot of those concepts that is in Kevin O'Connell's offense, but it is mainly air raid. So you're not getting a whole bunch of anticipatory type of throws. But his first year under Phil Longo, there were some of those types of throws. So Drake May would be a good fit. Now, is Drake May going to be available for the Vikings?
Right.
That's still to be determined.
Stick around. We have more players we want to chat about. Is that cool?
Oh, absolutely.
Right on. Jordan Reid, ESPN draft analyst from the Indy Combine 2024 at Jordan_Reid if you're looking to follow him on Twitter, as 9 to Noon does. And we will be back to Indianapolis.
On the Fan.
So Jay Reid, just to extend that quarterback-related conversation that Pete broached, when because we've discussed this a fair amount 9 to noon, with the belief that the Vikings definitely could be interested in finding their way to a quarterback in the first round. And so then you mentioned what you said about Drake May. So let's take Caleb Williams out of the conversation. It's, when you run offense like the Vikings, the Rams zone appeal, it's a playbook. It's a playbook quarterback required. And the system is just imperative to be run a certain way. The 49ers with Purdy and Shanahan would be the high-end example. Jaden Daniels, I believe you would be doing the young man a disservice by putting him in a situation like that and asking him to connect the proverbial dots. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, the LSU offense doesn't have a lot of those types of throws that Kevin incorporates. There was a lot of faith throws, is what I call them, down the field with Neighbors and then also Brian Thomas. So he doesn't have a lot of experience in some of the concepts that Kevin requires in his offense. And that's not to say he's not going to be able to do it. I think he's capable of it. But I just think it would be a steeper hill for him to climb, or a mental hurdle for him to climb, especially entering the league as a rookie as opposed to a Drake May, or a J.J. McCarthy, who already have that type of experience in some of the concepts that Kevin's already running in his offense.
We've talked a little bit off air about this on air off air about this quarterback situation, but understanding that the Vikings are public with saying they want to bring Kirk back. Yeah. If that's the case, you bring back a 36-year-old quarterback coming off of an Achilles tear. What does the offense, what does this team look like? Or I'll put it this way. With Kirk in, the Vikings have made it to a couple of playoff games. Last year, we were starting to bud when Kirk started to, find his rhythm, but we still haven't seen a deep playoff run with Kirk. So what more do you need to see if Kirk is the quarterback for the Vikings next year?
Well, I would say the regular season is never the question mark with Kirk Cousins. It's just the playoffs. I think he has one playoff win in 6 seasons that he's been with the Vikings. So the regular season is something that you never question with Kirk Cousins. I mean, October, he's going to show up. He's going to play his best ball. And I think Kirk was having his best year to date last season. But it's never going to be what can Kirk do in the regular season. What it's going to come down to with Kirk, if you bring him back, is the postseason. Do we feel like he can get us over the hump and eventually get us to that Super Bowl? He just hasn't been able to do that.
You've mentioned quarterbacks, the wide receivers. I think the other spot where our team is a little bit needs some bodies. We're a little talent poor. Is cornerback.
Yeah.
And drafting at 11, you might get the pick of the litter.
Yep.
Give me 3 names of the guys that have stood out to you, and I love it as from your perspective, because you see these guys a little bit differently. You just the guys that can cover, have the instinct, great ball skills. Who are those guys, and who should we be looking out for?
As funny as it is to say, Pete, corner is actually my favorite position to scout outside of quarterback.
There you go.
Of course. But
I know why. You like Yeah, you make your money picking those guys.
Yeah, that's what he did. That's what you do as that's what you do as a quarterback, right?
Yeah.
When you're looking at the
so much.
Yeah.
Find L. Take advantage of Al.
Yep. We called him Waldo. When I was in college.
Where's Waldo?
Where's Waldo? Yep. Find Waldo and attack Waldo. But 3 guys I really like. The first one is Tyrion Arnold of Alabama. I think he's the best cornerback in the draft. And Tyrion has a really cool story. He actually played safety his first year at Alabama. Then he transitioned to cornerback. But he's played slot. He's played outside. Very, very good athlete. Had 5 interceptions last year, which obviously was a career high for him. In the Kentucky game, you can see him playing mostly slot. And then every other game last season, he's playing outside for the most part. But you talk about somebody that's such an easy mover. He has really good ball skills. Yeah. And corners that transition from safety, they always have a different viewpoint of the position just because they've seen it from the back end. And then, of course, they've seen it from the sides of the defense. And then with him playing slot, that's really just the cherry on top.
Well, you just don't see that much.
You just don't see that type
Alabama's
of versatility.
The one place where you might see it.
Yep. Yeah.
You just don't, because you're a safety for a reason. You're a safety because you're not athletic enough to play corner. For the most part.
But still, understanding that is one of those things in this Brian Flores defense. A lot of detail is put on the cornerback. Pete brought up a point last night when we were walking back from dinner that Brian Flores, as much as we put pressure on the cornerbacks, we don't run a lot of man-to-man. Like, we ran a lot of zone this year. So how does that fare when looking at this, cornerback position group in the draft this year, understanding this game?
We need a guy that can tackle.
Yep.
Right? And we need a guy that can cover.
Correct.
Yep.
So,
well, I mean, just going back to your point, I think you have to be very smart. And Brian Flores' defense, just because it's so dependent on getting to your area. You're running all these funky looks. If you're running to the wrong area, you're going to cost everybody. So you have to be very smart, understanding the looks, and then just knowing where to line up. So Tyrion Arnold, he's super smart from everybody that I talk to. He's going to crush it on the whiteboard, too. The next one, which is one of my favorite players in the draft, is Quinion Mitchell from Toledo. He was the best player at the Senior Bowl to me. He was absolutely terrific.
And Toledo corner, you say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
it just doesn't happen often.
He's probably going to be one of the best testers at the Combine, too. It wouldn't surprise me if he ends up running in the low to mid 4.3s.
Oh, wow.
Jumping 40+, and then exceeding 11 feet in the broad jump. That would not surprise me at all. And what I love to see from those group of 5 players is when they play up.
Yeah.
How do they play when they play up? He's going against Marvin Harrison Jr. back in 2022, and he's holding up.
Yeah.
So being a Toledo corner, he was fantastic in that. And then they played Illinois last year, and he had a really good game too. So Quinion Mitchell is definitely a good one. And then my last one, I would say, is Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Kool-Aid.
Alabama. Another one of my favorites in this draft class, too. Played opposite of Tyrion Arnold. And Kool-Aid had a lot of buzz coming into the year. And I think Tyrion has kind of overshadowed him a little bit. Yep. And it's kind of hurt Kool-Aid. But Kool-Aid, he had a great year last year, too. But having Tyrion opposite of him, everybody's so excited about Tyrion.
Right.
It's kind of like Kool-Aid still left over here in the corner. But he's probably going to end up being the back end of the first round.
It's like when the drink competes with Tang.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody's looking at Tang. And meanwhile, we got Kool-Aid over here. It ain't too bad.
But he's one that I think the Vikings are going to like quite a bit too. So those will be my 3, and I'll give you a bonus name too.
I think I got to write down the bonus name. That was Dontavian Wicks last year, and I didn't listen.
Yeah,
go ahead.
So I want to give you one, not a first round guy that I think they're going to love. His name is Cam Hart of Notre Dame. He's about 6'2", 210 pounds.
Hey.
He was a wide receiver when he first got to Notre Dame. So those ball skills have transitioned over to the cornerback position, and he was another that was terrific down at the Senior Bowl, a really good tackler. He's going to be a huge tester as well. But you talk about somebody that's very instinctive at the position, really loose hips, and he kind of reminds you of Mekhi Blackman from last year, an explosive athlete that is a little bit raw at the position. You can still see kind of those wide receiver tendencies of him at cornerback, but trusting somebody like Brian Flores and Durante Jones to coach these guys up, I think is going to be really beneficial to Cam Hart. So if you're looking for somebody that could go in like the third or fourth round, Cam Hart is definitely one I would keep an eye on.
All right, time for 2 more with Jordan Reid, ESPN draft analyst.
Jordan, this question is going to make Pete happy because I'm surprised. I'm talking about this position group before he is, but the linebacker position group. A guy that stands out to me is Cedric Gray, UNC mid-rounder. I love the guy, not because he went to UNC, but just
He's
because
from
of
Charlotte. That's why Gabe.
Right. Well, his mom babysat Chris Paul, as I learned a year ago, and I'm like, and like. Gabe taught Dexter Lawrence to drive or something. I mean, he has these stories that pop up out of nowhere.
Being from Raleigh or from the Triangle area, you know everybody. So you got all these stories. But just understanding the linebacker position group, how do you rate that? And are there a couple of guys that fit this Vikings mold? Because Jordan Hicks isn't on the roster anymore. Troy Dye isn't on the roster technically anymore. So there is a really big need for that position group for the Vikings.
Yeah, and I mean they hit a home run with Ivan Pace last year, getting him as an undrafted free agent. But Cedric Gray, he's a really good athlete. I've had an opportunity to see him live a couple of times this year. Sideline to sideline guy, very good in pass coverage. Is a little bit undersized, about 6'1", 230 pounds, but that's where the game is going to. Right. It's a modernized game of where you have to be really good against the pass. He needs to clean up his eyes a little bit as far as run defense, stepping downhill and being disciplined, filling his gaps, and then has to be a little bit better of a wrap-up tackler. He wasn't very good as a wrap-up tackler last year. So Cedric Gray is one. Peyton Wilson, staying in the ACC. NC State is another that I think is going to be a really explosive tester. Won every award that you can think of in the country last year. But it's just he's had a couple of season-ending knee injuries. So medicals are going to be really big for him. And then another name that I'll give you that's more so probably a 4th or 5th round guy. His name is Tyron Hopper from Mizzou. Tyron Hopper. He's
a lot of
like
Tyron
guy.
Matthew.
We got a Mizzou corner, defensive end.
Really explosive. Is a little bit raw with stepping downhill and filling his gaps as well. But pass coverage, blitzing, I think Flores is going to like him a lot.
Holy cow. I mean, it's talking to you about this and, talking to Gabe a lot about it. It's just really great to hear about players other than Ronald Curry or Lawrence Taylor
or Julius
or Hakeem Nicks. I need a big receiver inside the 10 for the red zone. How about Hakeem Nicks, Gabe? He retired. Now, you and other people into the 2020 draft. I mean, here, right before the pandemic, you guys were nailing it, man, with how the depth of the wide receivers. And, hey, Paul, this could be the greatest wide receivers draft in the history of the NFL. Old schoolers are like, all right, I'm going to pump the brakes, watch them 2 years. Okay, well, everybody like you was right. You and others said the same thing last year about the tight ends with Kincaid and Musgrave, and Kraft ended up being good. Laporta's the centerpiece. Statistically, the greatest rookie tight end season in the history of the NFL, Sam Laporta. Is there a potential for offensive tackles this year?
Yeah.
That I heard last night when we were out chatting, because like you walk into a restaurant, hey, there's a Broncos scout. Hey, there's former head coach Dave McGinnis, who's the Titans radio network analyst. I taped an interview with him this morning. You run into the right people and you hear so many different things. And last night I heard so many good things about the depth of offensive tackle. Do you see it that way?
Yeah. I mean, wow. I think we could get as many as 7 in the first round.
Holy cow.
Which is a huge number, something we haven't seen in over a decade. So this offensive tackle class, we could get 2 inside the top 10 or even 3 inside the top 10. That would not surprise me at all. But there's so many teams that need help at offensive tackle. We could get as many as 7. And I love the 2 guys at the top, Olu Fashanu from Penn State, and then also Joe Alt of Notre Dame. I think both of those guys are plug-and-play options at left tackle. And then you go down the line of the depth in this class. Talise Fuaga of Oregon State is a really good player. And there's so many different names that you could go on and on. Tyler Guyton of Oklahoma. I could just reel off 10 names right now, potential guys that could go inside the top 40 or 50 picks.
All right, so also similarly, we are hearing that about quarterbacks, and you're going to have the 3 up top, and then you have McCarthy, and then Nick Penix, no particular order. But it's just so infrequent on Friday or Saturday. Teams draft quarterbacks, and within 2 or 3 years, they end up playing and being good. Mm-hmm. Is this a year that could happen? And if the quarterback finds the right team, the right system, and the right coach, like Friday or Saturday, which quarterbacks just quick twitch, because that's how you operate, do you think potentially could be what I'm saying?
There's 2 that I would feel comfortable about. Spencer Rattler of South Carolina is one that I think has really helped himself. He ends up and goes out and wins practice MVP at the Senior Bowl, and then wins MVP of the game as well. Ever since he transferred from Oklahoma to South Carolina, everybody that I talked to in the building said he's been a model citizen. He was a team captain as soon as he got there, and he's done everything right since he got there as well. So Spencer Rattler would definitely be one that I would recommend. And then also Michael Pratt of Tulane is another that I would recommend as well. He had a productive week down at the Senior Bowl, and then he had a really good year last year at Tulane too.
Are those system guys, or Jaden, or like Jaden Daniels, Mahomes? Those are high-end examples where, like Hurts. I mean, they run a system, but they give him freedom to break the pocket, and clearly he can run. But like Rodgers, and when he wasn't changing plays in the fourth quarter, he ran a system just perfectly, but when he broke the pocket, hide the women and children, but it still was the system and the scheme. You know what I mean? Like, are those quarterbacks, would they fit in and be playbook quarterbacks in like a certain type of scheme, or do they need to have more freedom?
Well, I say every quarterback is a system quarterback, just because every quarterback needs a certain system that they can specialize in and then thrive in as well. I think Rattler is more so mobile and kind of stretch the limits of a certain system, but Pratt is more so of your own schedule thrower that has to be inside the pocket. He's not very mobile, but he's really accurate too. So Spencer, I wouldn't say he's scheme proof, but you can stretch your limitations within the scheme more so with him, just because he's more mobile than Pratt.
All right, give me your best 30 seconds on Florida State edge Jared Verse.
Love him. I'm a big fan. Hands are stronger than a heavyweight boxer. I saw him against Clemson. I saw him in the ACC title game against Louisville. Plug-and-play starter right now. He's a really good run defender. 6.5 sacks down the backstretch of the year in the last 5 games of the season. I mean, if we had a game tomorrow, he'd go out there and be just fine.
So 11 for the Vikings. I mean, if that's what it ended up being, that'd be cool.
I'll be completely fine with it.
Yeah. If we got him and Fisk.
Yeah.
There's our outside linebacker and one of our interior.
Flores, be happy.
Both those guys.
You're awesome. Appreciate you
as always.
Jordan Reid at Jordan_Reid via Twitter, or X as the kids call it. And you can follow him and watch him on TV at ESPN. Into the second hour of Combine 24. That's around the corner from Indianapolis.